Welcome back. We looked at how we could close Microsoft Office Excel. This time around, it's not going to be like that. We are going to look at how to perform some other kind of functions using Microsoft Office Excel. That was just our introductory video. Apart from the close button, you will find the restore button, which is the maximize button. You would also find the minimize button, which is found here. Not only that, you would notice that Excel has menus. This is the menus bar just immediately after the titles bar that you see here. Excel has a default title on all new pages that you open. By default, it is Book 1, Microsoft Office Excel. That's why when you look at the bottom left hand, you notice that you call these sheets. They are sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, like just in your exercise book or maybe your notebook, your textbook or whatever. Now, on inside this package, you notice that here you find the various menus from home right up to view. These are the various menus that you can find in Microsoft Office Excel. We are going to exploit the most important ones in the course of our lessons as we'll be proceeding and moving towards our final videos. Now, what you are also going to notice is that in Microsoft Office Excel by default, you will know that most of the menus are common to that of Microsoft Office Word. You will find just a very small difference between the two application programs, that's Microsoft Office Word and Excel. The only difference that you will find that is very common will be this formula bar. This formula bar isn't there for Microsoft Word. It maybe will be replaced by the mailings, and I'm sure data is not also there. You're not going to see that as well. Now, you would also need to notice that in Microsoft Office Excel, by default, all the tabs have their various ribbons that have been displayed down. For example, on the home tab, you have a clipboard. We'll not mostly look at it. Clipboard is default for most all application programs that are running on Microsoft. That's where text is kept when you copy for it to be pasted in another region on the screen. And then you would also notice that under the home, you'll find the font section, you'll find the alignment, you'll find numbers, right up to editing. We are going to be using all of these as we will be proceeding. You would also need to understand that in Microsoft Office Excel, by default, you can work with cells. These are the cells, these rectangular boxes when I click on my screen, and by default these cells have their names. Okay, for example, when I click here, you name the cells based on their columns and their rows. So if I click on this cell, you notice that what has been highlighted in the column is F, and then on the row is 8, so you call this F8. So this is the cell F8 from the column and its row. If I click on this cell, you call it C14 because this is a cell C14 from the default column and its row. So that is what you need to know about cells as well. Another thing you need to understand is that you would need to know that these sheets here can definitely be inserted. You can delete them by default. For you to insert these cells, when you put your cursor here, you see insert worksheet, or you press shift plus F11. So when I click here by default, you see that my sheets keep on adding from sheet 1, sheet 2 right up to sheet 6. For me to delete this sheet, what I need to do is that I'll need to right click here and I take delete. I'm going to delete it by default. When I right click here, I take delete, I'll delete it by default, and I right click here, I take delete, I'll delete it by default. So that is what you need to know about sheets as well. Another thing about Microsoft Office Excel, from my introduction, I told you it can be used to analyze numerical data, display results graphically by using either charts, by using histograms, bar charts, and so on and so forth. We are going to look at all of that in the long run. Now, what you need to also notice about Excel is that it has a zoom button at the bottom right hand corner. The zoom button, by default, you see 100, you have a minus and a plus, so you can click on this plus. You see that the window gets very close to you, and when you click here, it gets very far away from you. That's what you need to notice by default. And also by default, these cells are numbered or lettered from A to Z. It doesn't only end there from A to Z, it continues from AA right up to AZ. If you notice, by default it's AA, AB, AC. It will end right up to AZ. You get it right? It will end right up to AZ. So if I go this way, you notice that I am going towards AZ here. It's going to start from BA to BZ. The next one is going to start from CA to CZ, right up to ZA to ZZ. So that's where most of your columns in Excel will end. Another thing about Excel is that we already said that it can be used to perform numerical calculations. So we would use something very small to see if we can compute addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Now, you can move your cells from one portion or part of the screen to another by using your arrow buttons top, down, right, left, or you use your tabs button at your left hand on your screen just immediately above your caps lock button. You can decide to be using your mouse, but you know that using the mouse all the time can lead to some health hazards that are associated with the excessive use of computers. Things like CTS and RSI can result when you overuse the mouse. Now, we will not mostly talk on that. That's not our lesson for today. We will go back and look at what is going to happen. We need to perform a small basic calculation here. Maybe we have some sales, or maybe we went to the shop and we bought some certain breakfast items for the house. Now, I bought items. You type inside the cells items, and you write their prices. Okay, prices of maybe items and price. Now these are the items I bought. Chocolate, I bought sugar, I bought maybe bread, I bought milk, and those are the items that I bought, and they have their prices. Maybe I bought chocolate for 500, I bought sugar for 200, I bought bread for 600, I bought milk for 750. That's what I have by default. And maybe in your list, each time you want to go and buy, each time you have your list of items, you need to have your total price so that you know if you have any balance left. So we need to calculate the total of everything that we have here. So we need to know that we are going to use a sum. Normally we add, right, by default, but in Excel we don't use addition, we use sum. So we are going to call the sum function. By default, you need to understand that all formulas in Microsoft Office Excel start with an equal sign. So we are going to put our equal sign and we put our sum function. You put bracket open and close. Now inside that bracket, that's where we are going to initiate our calculation command. Remember, we will name them by using cells. Now you start. The cell that contains 500 is the cell B2. So I may write B2, but you see that writing B2, C2, and so on, it's time consuming and you will be using your keyboard and so many other things. So why don't we just click on the cell after our plus sign? So we'll click on 200, we'll put plus, we click on 600, plus we click on 750. That's all. We are done. We press our enter button. we have 20,050 francs. I may decide not to use that. I may decide to use by default equal sign. Remember, I used by the sum function. This time around, I will not use the sum function. I'll just put equal sign. I will just click on the cell plus this plus this plus this, and 20,050 francs is going to be displayed on the screen. Now, this is the total amount of what I spent. Not 2,050 francs is what I spent, rather. I'm sorry about the mistake. 2,050 francs is what I spent. Now, imagine I was given a certain amount. I went to the market with, let me say, amount to the market, or amount to the market. This is the money, the amount I took by default. Now, remember, if I want to extend this, you notice that this amount to the market is cutting across so many cells. I'll need to put my cursor in between C and D, and I extend like this. If I don't want that, I just double click on the cell. When I double click on the cell, it extends the length of the column for me. Maybe I took 6,000 francs, or maybe 5,000. I was given 5,000 note to the market, and normally they are expecting a balance, so my balance will be gotten like this. Normally you're expecting to have 5,000 minus 2,050 francs. What am I going to have? Normally you are expecting to have an equal sign. First you have your 5,000, you put your minus sign, and you click on 2,050 francs. The moment you press enter, that's how your balance is going to come. Now we have learned how to use the plus and the subtraction, that's addition and subtraction, in our functions. Now imagine we want to use multiplication. Imagine we had items per items, maybe quantity of the items that we bought, and now maybe we bought chocolate by 2, and then we bought sugar 2, we bought bread 3 loaves of bread, and then we bought 2 tins of this. You notice that we are going to have a different computation. Now we are going to have total price of the items on this column. You understand? Because these are their unit prices, price per unit. So if I have unit prices here, I will extend this column from here by double clicking. Now the total price definitely will be the unit price times the price per quantity. Now I want to use the multiplication formula here. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to use the equal sign. I'm going to click on this cell, multiplied, press the multiplication sign at the right hand corner on your numeric keypad section, times what? Times this quantity here. But you notice that I'm calculating this on the sugar, so I'm going to remove this. I'm going to put the unit price for chocolate on B2 multiplied by the quantity for chocolate, which is that. So I am going to have this on my screen. So I'm going to perform this computation to all the other cells that I find. In Excel, I will not do this. I may just want to calculate for all the cells, but you notice that it is going to be time consuming. If I click on this cell, multiplied by this cell, press enter, I click equal sign, I click on this cell, multiplied by this cell, I press enter, this cell multiplied by this cell, I press enter. That is how I'm going to have everything displayed on my screen. Now it means that definitely this total here is going to change from what I have. The total is going to change. In my next video, I'm going to show you how we will continue from this particular point on how to perform a different computation on what we find on our screens.